Hello, welcome to dyslexia.co.uk teachers course. Today I will be discussing 10 ideas to help dyslexic students in the classroom. The 10 tips are very simple, but help engage the dyslexic student more in the classroom and also help them to remember the information they need to know. For example, problems of reading, therefore the information goes into short-term memory and is restricted in going to the long-term memory. So the tips I'll give are very much of developing picture-orientated images within the mind, so the student will therefore help themselves remembering the information. Okay. I'm a big believer in showing videos in the classroom. I know this from my own experience. It helped me to remember the work I needed to remember and the facts. This is very good for English literature, which I know teachers do this, but at the same time I believe students should go and rent the video or go to the library and rent the video there for their books. This helps to generate images in the mind from what they've seen in the film, so they can look back and associate the text in the books. Okay, some teachers may disagree in this, but this is also helps with self-acceptance. Okay, forget about spelling. What is more important for the dyslexic is the correct content. Okay, so you should say if a student has good content, say well done to the student. Emphasise that the content they've got is correct. You can mention the spelling and the grammar, but the dyslexic knows we're not good at that. So by repeating it all the time is just putting a negative effect on the student. Be positive about the content. Very good method is bullet points. Ask the student to put a list of bullet points down. This helps narrow down the content. Okay, homework. Your students, dyslexic students will always get homework. Students always get homework, but a good method to get the information to long-term memory is for the student to learn on their own. So homework is a good application for this. So asking the student to research a topic. This will help them understand the future topic. I ask them a week before you're going to do a class, can you please go and research this? A simple, go and ask them to go and use some YouTube videos. Look on the internet, Wikipedia, and write a group of notes. This will help them get the information into long-term memory. Okay, I've said it already, homework, but YouTube has a great amount of videos. If it's from a blogger, if it's from a tutor, anybody. Videos are a good way of getting information into long-term memory because the dyslexic are seeing images. Okay, tip 5. Dyslexics obviously have problems of reading and writing. Writing is one of the worst issues. I used to hate doing essays, and my teachers used to say to me, oh, you'll do essays when you go to university or you go to college. You'll do essays when you're in your future career. No, sorry, you don't. You do reports. So I would recommend teachers to ask students to do report writing. It's a very structured piece of content. So you could say you've got the introduction, you've got your findings, which are bullet points, and the student can narrow down information within the bullet point, and then the conclusion. It's a lot more effortless for the dyslexic to produce a report, but it's a lot more difficult for them to do an essay. Okay, tip 6. Now, study skills. We all believe, as teachers believe as well, that students already know study skills. Okay, dyslexics often struggle because they don't have the skills. Not because they can't read and write, because they struggle with the study skills. So, before you go and ask them to do a piece of homework, like produce a report, for example, why not just have a 5-minute tutorial with the class on how to write a report on the board? It's pretty simple. Explain bullet points, explain mind mapping. Okay, this will help the student develop skills to put words on paper and to read off paper. Okay. Tip 7. This is very important. Again, it comes back to study skills. Note taking. Dyslexics are often messy with the handwriting. They're not good at writing, so having the right understanding how to write notes is a very good method to teach for students. I always use the word bullet points. I'm a big believer in this, and I think you should promote to your students, just write a list of bullet points on what you watch that video with. It doesn't have to be an essay, a big paragraph, just a bullet point, short bullet point. Okay, instructions. Dyslexics have a very short-term memory. So if you give them an instruction, they're most probably going to forget it, or they're going to question it when they get back to their desk if you tell them the other side of the classroom. So a good idea is to ask the dyslexic to write down what you've said to them. Okay, just a simple little note. Okay, if it's an instruction. Okay, this is important. Again, it helps the dyslexic remember. Tip 9. Difficulty to understand. Dyslexics, if they're confused, there's no point pushing them on a subject. Okay. What I suggest is, if a student's having difficulty to understand something, maths or another subject, why not just pull back for 2 minutes, let their brain relax, let their brain reset their thinking, and then come back to it. It's a lot easier. Little bit, but often. That's the clue with dyslexics. Don't push them with too much information at once. Little bit, but often, and develop a picture. Develop also a spider diagram of a topic so they can see it in bits. Okay. Final tip. Tip 10. Using the board. The big white board or the big black board. Okay. You're going to ask teachers, you do ask students to sit there and write what you're writing on the board. The dyslexic's going to spend more time concentrating on what they're writing than they're actually going to understand what you're saying. What I would suggest you doing is producing some quick notes, print them out and put them on every student's desk, and then talk about what the notes are, rather than asking a student to copy off a board, because they ain't going to remember. Okay. Thank you for listening to my 10 tips. I hope that these will help you in the classroom to engage with your dyslexic students, and also these tips will help with engaging with all the other students. Okay, I forgot something about the boards. Okay, I recommend you using different colour pens, red, green and blue, not if you're using on a whiteboard, a black pen. Okay, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you can always email me at stephen@dyslexiawayofthinking.co.uk. You can also find me at dyslexiawaythinking.co.uk. You can also find me on my Facebook group, What Dyslexia. Please keep visiting the blog, and also keep on visiting the courses. I'm going to be putting a lot more presentations up in the future. Thanks for listening again, and take care, and hope to hear from you soon. Bye.